News Prime. A week after Ghana recorded its first set of COVID-19 cases, 8 more have been added, bringing the total to 11. President Akufo-Addo gave the first update at a breakfast meeting at Jubilee House.
We also learned sadly on Wednesday the 3 Ghanaians living abroad have lost their lives as a result. With 9 confirmed cases of infections, we might count ourselves as amongst the countries least hit.
That figure of 9 has since been updated. We'll be telling you about the latest cases and who the people are. In a related development, 2 MPs and 5 parliamentary staff had to go into self-isolation after traveling to countries with coronavirus cases. We also have another case of someone who recently returned from abroad who's gone into self-isolation. Meanwhile, as Parliament gets set to debate the imposition of restrictions bill, the minority is objecting to attempts to rush it through under a certificate of urgency.
That has already been spent. So what other urgent matters does the President require other powers to be able to exercise? None. The bill doesn't show it doesn't demonstrate that.
We'll be in Parliament for the latest and also bring you the global picture from Ghanaians living in countries that are on lockdown or partial lockdown. Meanwhile, SHRAJ has described as disrespectful the refusal of the National Identification Authority to suspend its ongoing registration exercise despite concerns raised about the COVID-19 outbreak.
I'm only just appealing to the NIA to hold their guns and wait for the 4 weeks because there is so much common sense and wisdom in the presidential directives.
There was a funeral in Kumasi where the corpse was sent straight to the cemetery from the morgue, denying the mourners an opportunity to file past or view it.
Our relative died days before the presidential directive, so we decided to send the corpse to the cemetery without bringing it home.
We'll be telling you about the COVID-19 compliant funeral. In business,
Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors justifies failure by oil marketing companies to reduce prices significantly despite sharp drop in crude oil prices on the international markets.
Only reducing so that he can also recover a bit of it, as you can see from the February point. Okay, that's if you are benchmarking the seaboard fair market price.
And as the rest of the country worries about COVID-19, 18 people have died from a meningitis outbreak in the Upper West region.
This year, from the 1st of January to last Friday, we've recorded quite a number of cases, about 137 cases.
I am Israel and Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomlimli here in Accra with digital address GA099-2539, where we're celebrating 25 years of responsible journalism in fulfillment of our role as the fourth estate of the realm. Stay tuned in. Now, Ghana on Thursday registered 4 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 11 a week after the first set of cases were confirmed. The first update was announced by President Akufo-Addo at a breakfast meeting at Jubilee House.
All of us are aware of the havoc the coronavirus pandemic is wreaking across the world. It is changing our very lives as we know it and is leaving in its wake deaths and economic difficulties and is spreading fear and panic throughout the world. The World Health Organization, WHO, tells us that some 180,000 infections and some 7,000 deaths have been recorded from this pandemic. We also learned sadly on Wednesday the 3 Ghanaians living abroad have lost their lives as a result. With 9 confirmed cases of infections, we might count ourselves as being amongst the countries least hit by the coronavirus. Nonetheless, the rapid spread of the disease across the world has led us to institute a number of measures to help ensure that our nation is adequately prepared to combat the spread of the pandemic on our shores.
Well, details became available subsequently on the Ghana Health Service website dedicated to disseminating information on COVID-19. Updated a few hours ago with 2 more cases, bringing the total, the days total to 4 and the total number so far to 11. Here is what we know about the 4 cases. So one is a 56-year-old man, a Ghanaian who traveled back to Accra from a trip to the UK about a week ago. The second is a 33-year-old Ghanaian who returned to Accra from a conference in the UAE. And then there's also a 59-year-old Ghanaian woman resident in the United Kingdom who recently returned to Ghana and currently living in Kumasi. She reported to a private hospital with a history of fever and temperature of 39.1 degrees Celsius, general malaise, cough, and runny nose. Their condition was suspected to be COVID-19. A sample was subsequently collected and sent to the KCCR, and the report was received early Thursday morning as positive for COVID-19. Now, the 4th case is a 61-year-old Lebanese male trader and resident in Kumasi. He also felt unwell and reported to a health facility with fever and cough. The sample tested positive for COVID-19. All the cases are being managed in isolation and responding to treatment according to the Ghana Health Service. So far, the confirmed cases in Ghana are from Turkey, Norway, Germany, France, United States of America, United Kingdom, and United Arab Emirates. The Ghana Health Service, since it started its updates, has always stated that the cases registered in Ghana are imported. It was, however, silent on the case of the Lebanese trader in Kumasi. Now, with regards to contact tracing, a total of 399 contacts have been identified and are being followed up. But then, 19 of the people who developed some forms of symptoms after coming into contact with the 9 people who have been confirmed so far have had samples taken for laboratory testing. Laboratory results for 15 of them were negative for COVID-19. The Ghana Health Service says it is awaiting results for the remaining 4. Now, let's take a look at the global picture and what the situation is around the world. And we're going to the Worldometer, where it gives us an update as to the number of coronavirus cases. All right, we're sharing with you the Worldometer a bit later, but 2 parliamentarians, Dr. Robert Kuganam Leb and Nasser Mahama Toure, as well as 5 staff of parliament, are to go into quarantine on their return from abroad. According to Majority Leader Oseche Mensah Bonsu, the deputy ranking member on the Health Committee and Ayawaso East MP, as well as the staff members, have been asked to stay home after they travel to affected countries. He said on the floor of Parliament Thursday that MP Toure, that Mr. Toure, who is MP for Ayawaso East, who is returning from India on Friday, should stay out. The Minister for Parliamentary Affairs named 5 parliamentary staff who have also returned from Nigeria, as others who have been affected by a directive not to show for work in the House. All right, let's go over now to Parliament, where they are debating the imposition of restrictions bill, which gives legal backing to the president's directives issued recently on COVID-19.
Honorable member, why have you resumed your seat? You stood up, I gave you the floor.
Yes, so I'm rising to
contribute.
I'm rising to contribute to the motion on the floor of the House. And in I'm not seconding. Yes, Speaker,
Yeah,
I am not seconding because I have a dissenting view.
Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, after a motion is moved, the motion must be seconded before it becomes competent for us, for the entire House, to debate the motion. The member who had just sat down, when he got up, said, Mr. Speaker, I second it. Mr. Speaker, he has not taken his words back. He said, I second it. It's for the record. Mr. Speaker, he has not taken his words back. So that's what he said. It's for the record. If he's now saying that it's not seconding, he wants to retract, that's a different thing. But that is what he has said, for the record.
Yes, Honorable Ranking Member.
The Speaker, I stood up to contribute to the motion, but my attention was drawn to the fact that I could not contribute to the motion without seconding it. And I feel constrained in seconding the motion. So if I had said that I second the motion, I take my words back.
Yes, Honorable Member for.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion that this Honorable House adopts the report of the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs on the determination of the agency or otherwise of the imposition of restrictions bill 2020. Mr. Speaker, at the time His Excellency the President addressed the nation, first, the coronavirus had not hit the country. Subsequently, when His Excellency addressed this nation the second time, the situation had changed. Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, the situation has also changed. I do not think that any of us in this House would agree that we are in normal times. Indeed, the President himself has indicated that we are not in normal times. That is why it is more germane that we treat this bill with all the urgency that it deserves. We cannot, as a nation, stand by for this virus to overtake us before we do our duty as legislators. I will therefore plead and implore all my colleagues for us to adopt this motion, this report, so that the bill can be taken in accordance with Article 106 of the 1992 Constitution. I'm most grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the debate on the floor of the House. And to say that the opposition to this bill being taken under a certificate of agency is founded on our standing orders, on the Constitution, and the practice of the House. The Speaker, we are being told in the report that this bill is intended to provide a broad framework to deal with future occurrences of a similar nature. Mr. Speaker, if you are intending to lay a framework to deal with future emergencies, I think it is only fitting and proper to take steps to build a resilient legal system, a resilient regime to deal with that. And that's why we ought not to take this under a state of emergency. Under a certificate of urgency. Mr. Speaker, the second most important point is that this bill, in the way that it has come to this House, clearly excludes many requirements that must conform to the Constitution. The requirement that the fundamental rights of the citizens of this country must be respected and upheld at all times, except when the law provides for the rights of a person to be taken away. And that law must be the taking away of that right must be in accordance with procedure. Mr. Speaker, the bill in its current form has no procedural limitations on the exercise of powers which can overreach the enjoyment of fundamental rights of a person in this country. And as Parliament, we need to take time. We need to take time to provide.
Hold on. Yes, Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the report before us is the determination of the urgency or otherwise of the referendum. My colleague now, where he's going, he has already started to debate the principle as if we are doing a second reading of the bill. Mr. Speaker, he's jumping the cut. And Mr. Speaker, if you don't prevent him from doing what he's doing, somebody is saying he should subject himself to quarantine. But Mr. Speaker, on a more serious note, I think he's jumping the cut. We are not there yet at all. Where we are now is whether the bill fits the decision that you took, whether it qualifies to be taken under a certificate of urgency. That's all. But we are debating the principle already. We are not there. We are not there.
Yes, Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard the Majority Leader. This is the Parliament of Ghana, a guardian of fundamental human rights and freedoms. The matter before us is an onerous one of an amendment to the 1992 Constitution, so speaking, by an enactment. What is not true? Mr. Speaker, whether agency or not, Article 21, 4C and D, are they my words? They are constitutional. So what are you talking about? So I'm saying the letter from the Attorney General and the letter from the President, the ranking member is justifying why, in his view, this matter be not treated as urgent. It is not about the principles. He must provide justification. And Mr. Speaker, you've been here when I conveyed to the people of Ghana that under these extraordinary circumstances, the President deserves our collective support. But in giving him that support, we will not give him that unfettered powers and freedom. If you want us to look at this matter with a national perspective, we will do. If if you want us to do it with a partisan perspective, we will do. But let's be reminded that the people of Ghana, the citizens whose trust we have today, are concerned about how this parliament can secure and protect their life and safety. They are not interested in our partisan debate. So what the ranking member is doing is to justify why he doesn't consider this bill urgent. And in any case, read the report of the committee. He said we shared a view that we are in dissent. And he used the word, the chairman, he said they perceived that it is unconstitutional. He must now lead the debate to justify that perception, why he thinks that it's unconstitutional. And Mr. Speaker, on this matter, we should proceed cautiously with the people of Ghana in mind. There is no winner in this matter. We've been in government too, so you can't frighten us about being in government and being in majority. We've been there. Mr. Speaker, I say if you want us to approach this matter divided, we will encourage you to do that. Okay, go ahead. Leave the ranking member to justify why he thinks that it's not urgent.
Honorable Minority Leader, thank you. Now,
Mr. Speaker, I am speaking to the report. And the concern was raised about the absence of checks and balances in the bill, which is contained on page 2 of the report. And I'm saying that is why we do not need to take this bill under a certificate of urgency, because we need to provide for checks and balances. Mr. Speaker, we also, when we're looking at a bill in total and the examination of the urgency of the bill, we saw that the President can, by an instrument, an executive instrument, provide for applicable offenses and penalties. We saw it in the bill. The President can, by executive instrument, provide for offenses and penalties. Mr. Speaker, I do not know whether Parliament will cede its power of law-making to the President. And that is why, and to be more specific, Mr. Speaker, it appears that that particular provision, clause 2, subclause 2E, violates in fundamental terms Article 1911 of the Constitution, which provides that no person, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, let me refer you to Article 1911, which has gained some notoriety in the courts, which was first taken to the courts, to the Supreme Court, by the learned Minister for Interior. Mr. Speaker, Article 11.
So what you're just watching is the minority arguing why they don't believe that the imposition of Restrictions Bill 2020, which will give the legal backing to measures announced by the President to minimize the spread of COVID-19, has to be treated as under a certificate of urgency. I'm joined on the line now by our parliamentary correspondent, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. Now, Joseph, we know that minority has been holding this position for a while now, virtually all day. They've been talking about the fact that they're going to argue against passing this bill under a certificate of urgency. They're doing exactly that.
Yes, and it looks like they've they are likely to lose the debate in the end, because per the committee's recommendation, even at the committee level, they did lose the debate, because this is the 25-member committee. Funny enough, when they start to consider this, there were only 15 of them at the committee sitting earlier today. And out of the 25, about 11 of them are minority MPs and about 14 of them are majority MPs. But this morning, when they start to consider the issue of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, only 15 MPs were present, 10 of them on the majority side, 5 on the minority side. So the committee voted for approval of the document being passed on the certificate of urgency by a 10-5 majority. And it looks like right on the floor of Parliament, that's exactly what will play out, because when the debate is done and Inusa Hussaini is done and other MPs contribute to the discussion, the Speaker will hear from the leaders, the majority and the minority leaders, and then the issue will be put to a vote. And clearly, the majority have the numbers, and despite the minority's opposition, it's very much likely that the House will approve that the document be taken under certificate of urgency using the powers of the majority.
Now, Joseph, initially, when this bill first came up, we heard the minority say that they were willing to work or cooperate with the majority to see this passed as quickly as possible. Where is that all gone?
So the minority MPs are insisting that they think that they should even have been consulted, even as the document was being drafted. They say that wasn't done. And then they ended up seeing a document which makes no reference to the issue of the coronavirus, and they say that they are again seeing a document that gives unfettered access to the president to just make use of executive an instrument to restrict freedom, and they think that that may result in a president abusing that for a number of purposes, including political. And so they say unless the government considers withdrawing this document, rewording it, and ensuring that Parliament provides some level of oversight, even as the President is given the power to introduce executive instruments to restrict freedom, they cannot count on the support of the minority MPs. What they're saying now is that they are in support of any measures to help deal with the issue of the coronavirus, but for now, a document that, when eventually approved, would give unfettered access to the President when it comes to restricting freedom is something that they will not be tolerating. And in fact, earlier in the day, the Information Minister, Kudjo Nkrumah, in a media interaction, he's also the MP for Kwasia Irebi, and he's also a member of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. He indicated that they, on the government side, are actually appealing to the minority that they should reconsider their position. And they just need to give the green light for this to pass under the certificate of urgency. At the level of the consideration of the bill itself, there will be opportunities for amendment, and they can introduce anything else that they think is out of place. And it looks like the minority is not buying that, and they would want to take this debate to the very far end that they will be able to carry.
All right. Now, Joseph, one final thing before you go. Yesterday, we heard the Speaker say that they were considering spacing out the seating in Parliament so that in respect of the WHO guidelines on social distancing. Is that happening?
As we rightly saw, even as we broadcasted proceedings from the floor, that has not happened. The Speaker's point was that they were considering even using portions of the gallery so that then some MPs would move there, and then right on the floor, there will be enough spacing for the MPs to be able to do the assignment. That actually hasn't happened. Funny enough, the MPs on the floor itself, it's actually not come up for a conversation, except that the MPs again make the point that they would want to see enforcement of processes to protect themselves. For example, earlier in the day, the majority leader of Osei Mensah mentioned 2 members of Parliament. The member of Parliament for Ayawaso East, Mahama Nessa Sure, as well as the MP for Quinturi, that's Robert Kwanleb Nab. He indicated that these are MPs. One of them has been in India, the other has been in Japan. They are getting back into the jurisdiction, as well as 5 parliamentary staff. They've been out in Nigeria, and he indicated that he's serving a notice to them that they should go into self-quarantine for at least 14 days before they show up on the floor, just as a way to protect MPs. And he made these details known when the health minister was on the floor, and the health minister requested that he would want to get details of the said 7 people so that then he would pass it on to the public health team so they follow up with these individuals and get them to go into self-quarantine so that then they don't end up showing up in Parliament and infecting members of the House. So it looks like when it comes to discussing measures that need to be taken to protect MPs, those conversations have been ongoing even up until today. But funny enough, the real act, including rearranging the seating in the House as the Speaker directed yesterday, has actually not happened.
All right. There was also the issue of the disappearing hand sanitizers. Has that been resolved yet?
For now, the indication is that the CCTV cameras and all, as the Majority Leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Osei Mensah Bonsu, directed, are up, and that the necessary monitoring is actually ongoing, so that then anyone who does that will be caught. For now, no one has been caught. Looks like people have paid attention to what the Majority Leader said and are desisting from draining the sanitizers, as he complained about, that sometimes the sanitizer stand is almost full. You look at it within an hour, you come back and all is gone. But it looks like a lot of that is not happening today, to then warrant the situation of the Majority Leader seeing to the enforcement of sanctions against those who may be responsible for that.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, bringing us that update in Parliament. And we'll be monitoring proceedings in Parliament as and when it is necessary. We'll be going back to the floor to listening on the debate. You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. Shraj has described as disrespectful the refusal of the National Identification Authority to suspend its ongoing registration exercise despite concerns raised about the COVID-19 outbreak.
I'm only just appealing to the NIA to hold their guns and wait for the 4 weeks, because there is so much common sense and wisdom in the presidential directives.
In academic. Well, it's time now for business, and Sandra Fenu is here. As you can see, we're respecting the
social distancing on set.
Yeah, so I'm staying as far away as possible from you.
Yeah, that's good. But we have a lot to talk about in business.
Please.
All right, celebrating 25 years of Joy. My name is Sandra Esina Mafinu. As always, I'm here for business. The Ghana Employers Association is urging all employers and employees to follow a line of directives in hopes of preventing spread of the COVID-19 virus. In a press statement released, the association highlights the following measures. The first one is the need to make sure workplaces are clean and hygienic. The second is the surface, desk, door handles, balustrades, tables, objects such as telephone need to be wiped with disinfectants at regular intervals each day, and also to promote regular and thorough hand washing by employees, contractors and customers. The fourth one is also to promote good respiratory hygiene, and the association is also advising employees and contractors to consult national travel advice before going on business trips. It also added that it should reduce physical meeting and events, and further added that regular education, sensitization and awareness on causes of COVID-19, how it spreads and impacts on the workplaces and also on the family. The association is also urging employers with online and digital facilities to encourage workers to operate from home. And air cargo volumes at the Kotoka International Airport has dipped in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak. This was revealed by the cargo operators Swissport and Aviance when the Minister of Aviation inspected the facilities to ascertain the preparedness of the cargo handlers in the wake of the COVID-19 outbreak. Our aviation correspondent Sheila Tamaklo has more.
The tour began with Magdan Aviation, the United States military hub station. General Manager for Magdan Aviation, Julian Larty, says operations had ceased a week ago.
The passengers that come through are the military staffs that are on attachment or on other assignments. So those are the specific passengers that fly through.
And they come just on transit?
Just transit.
Move on to different countries?
Yes.
They're not coming to Ghana?
No, they are not coming.
As of last week, we stopped coming through here?
Exactly.
Okay.
The next stop was the cargo sections, Aviance and Swissport. Here, the recent travel restriction is clearly visible on business operations.
We're approximating at this stage in time with the latest reduction of airlines, probably about a 20 to 25% reduction in our import volumes. That will probably equate, and I don't actually know what the numbers and revenue were. We only just got informed yesterday evening on further cancellations. I still need to do the actual calculation on revenue side, but it is substantial. Okay, so let's not beat around the bush. It is substantial. When the passenger airlines stop flying, it does put us into a bit of a difficulty, all right? But we are managing the situation, and that's key.
We are almost down with about 40 flights a week since the pandemic. And 40 flights a week is a huge volume. No, almost all the passenger flight comes with cargo. We are operating, we have about 2 to 10% cargo coming in with freighters. The rest of them, the 90% is all by the passenger flights.
Besides passengers being affected, that is passenger numbers dropping, clearly checks here indicates that cargo has also dwindled in the wake of the coronavirus epidemic. However, the measures so far in place appear to be satisfactory.
It's really comforting to know that nothing has been detected so far, and that the port health people are working with the cargo management stakeholders to ensure that everything's under control. I think Ghana is doing not badly at all at this stage. Let's pray that things don't get any worse than they are now.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
Now, some importers have started hoarding goods in anticipation of what they say is a looming shortage in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Some of the business owners whose work depends largely on imports from hard-hit countries like China and America say the trend has led to spikes in prices, and things could get worse in the coming weeks as many warehouses run out of stock. Here's a report by Justice Bedu.
The market is down since goods has increased due to the coronavirus. So people are afraid to go and import the goods because of the virus, because government has banned no one to travel. Flight doesn't go, flight doesn't come. So the little bit they have, they increase it due to the virus. And the consumers too, they are afraid to come and buy because they say the virus has spread everywhere. So everyone to protect him or herself. Even if the goods are there, they will intentionally keep them at the warehouse. Don't sell it for a bit, 1 week, 2 weeks before they increase it. But due to the virus, because when people come to buy, they say, oh, now you have taken of goods, or the travelers, they don't know more travel again. Since no one is about to travel, they should increase our goods to this amount. So we have no railing, we have to buy it.
Normally we pick our goods from Dubai. And, Dubai to the goods are coming from China. And it's the Chinese people that we normally do business with, though we live in Dubai. And currently, they are also short of goods. So, as we speak, example for iPhone 6s Plus, we used to sell the screen at 80 cedis. Now it's being sold around 150 cedis because of the shortage. I think this is a jihadi war for every Muslim, because this is the proper jihadi Muslims should fight.
Say first cry kwala yenim China for niama enyo na edetete yen emu say first yenim perfume rice
Somehow this is good for us. When we were young, we did not even know Chinese rice. So if because of coronavirus we have to eat what we have here, that could be good.
This report. In other news tonight, despite a significant drop in crude oil prices on the international market, oil marketing companies in the country have not reduced the prices on petroleum products as expected by consumers. Justifying this development, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senyo Husi, blamed the development on cost of storage and insurance by oil marketing companies. Ebenezer Sabote has more in the following report.
Since the beginning of the year, crude oil prices have seen a persistent decline on the international market but has not reflected on the local downstream sector. As a result, consumers continue to push for a further reduction in petroleum prices. At a press briefing in Accra, Chief Executive of the Bulk Oil Distributors, Senyo Husi, disclosed the oil marketing firms are using the opportunity to recover the lost margins recorded in previous years. According to him, the reduction in the international prices of crude is not reflecting locally because other cost factors have not changed.
The supplier has been, the OMC has been shortchanged for 6 months, and the OMC is gradually reducing so that he can also recover a bit of it, as you can see from the February point. Okay, that's if you are benchmarking the seaboard fair market price. Because you can't have somebody always below the red line. When they stay eternally below the red line, very soon that company is collapsing. What technically you are seeing them do is that, okay, when prices are supposed to go up, we don't really go up. We just keep it about the same. We keep it about the same. Now that it's come down so quickly, we won't also go down so quickly. We'll go down much slowly so that we can make gains to cover a bit of the holes in the past.
He, however, cautioned consumers to be measured in their expectations.
Between the BDC and the OMCs, prices are more real-time than OMCs and consumers. Well, everybody can see the price have dropped, but I bought the thing yesterday. I bought it at $600. Today, what I'm holding is $550. I will have to pay $600. I'm not going to pay $550 because I bought it at $600. My supplier will collect $600. Don't say today it has come, so I'll give you a discount. It won't happen. So when things are dropping like that, you're also having a major risk. We call it backwardation. But in the same vein, when it's also going up, you're also getting an advantage depending on when you buy. And that is part of the job of a BDC.
The chamber is urging government to reduce its intervention in the pricing of petroleum products since the country is practicing a deregulated market policy.
So we still stay on the COVID-19 pandemic, and central banks across the world are lending support to step up emergency support for financial markets. And this is what have some graphic for you. Just watch this. So policymakers at the Federal Reserve launched a program to support money market mutual funds. Hours after those at the European Central Bank announced a €750 billion, that's equivalent of $820 billion bond buying initiative. And then also the Reserve Bank of Australia cut its benchmark interest rate by 25 basis points to 0.25 Thursday and ventured into quantitative easing with plans to purchase government bonds. All right, and also Japan and South Korea also boosted bond buying. And that'll be all for the first part of business. My name is Sandra Esinamap, and I'm back after 8 p.m. with more business news update. Thank you so much for watching.
of Human Rights and Administrative Justice has ordered the National Identification Authority to suspend the ongoing Ghana card registration process in compliance with the executive order by President Akufo-Addo. It comes days after a presidential directive restricting public gatherings as a preventive measure to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. In an interview with Joy News' Latif Idris, Commissioner of SHRAJ, Joseph Whittal, said the Commission is concerned about the right to health and life of Ghanaians. He added that it is disrespectful for the NIA to disregard the presidential directive.
I just think we are rushing this And for the sake of the right to health of all Ghanaians, and in obedience to the directive of the president, which is predicated on the WHO precautionary measures. Give it a break.
Beyond this call by Siraj for NIA to suspend this registration process, what else would Siraj do in the event that NIA ignores your call and then continues with this registration? Would you just lay back and watch them go ahead, or there's something that Siraj would want to do?
Well, let me put it this way. It is not tried that NIA would have been refusing to comply. It's a presidential directive which applies to all of us. So I hope the president's directive should be respected. If there is no respect for that directive, it is the presidency that should take the NIA on.
Sure, you will not be interested in taking the NIA on?
Well, I'm only drawing the NIA's attention to very legitimate directives for all to comply by the highest personage in this country, that we don't need to send mixed messages to our people. If you tell the people, don't go to church, don't bury your people, because it will bring about crowds, we should send the same message concerning registration.
But Mr. Whittal, some also argue that these individuals who go to these centers to get their identity from the authority also have the right to take the decision to go or not to go. The NIA wouldn't come and compel you to move from your homes to go to the registration centers.
You see, let's be honest with ourselves. The president's directive is currently a directive, but the president has emergency powers under the Constitution, which he could activate, but that has to be by law. And so, whilst they are still directives as they are now, you and I know that there's a bill before Parliament. Exactly. And that bill is really meant to take forward these directives. So, when we know that the president is actually has technically declared a state of emergency, and that these directives are meant to actualize the state of emergency until the bill is passed, why do we take the position that we will continue until the directives become law?
Of a dead colleague were disappointed when the bereaved family sent the body to the cemetery right from the morgue as mourners waited to see it at home. Head of their senior family at Chow Krum in the Jesu municipality of the Ashanti region took the decision in compliance with government's directive on social gathering in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. Opinion Kweku Champong also restrained people from converging as he restricted the rights to a few relatives. My colleague Ohiming Teria was at Chow Krum and joins us in sending this report.
The pomp and pageantry, display of rich Akan culture associated with modern funerals were absent at the burial of 45-year-old Kofi Boakye, described as the people's man. What was supposed to be a private burial took a new twist. Akan culture associated with modern funerals were absent at the burial of 45-year-old Kofi Boakye, described as the people's man. What was supposed to be a private burial took a new twist as sympathizers are marched in front of the family house. Soon, the numbers began to swell. Despite the family's decision to respect presidential ban on social gatherings, the crowd's anxiety to pay their last respect to their departed loved one was dashed when the family sent the corpse to the graveyard without the usual laying in state. Few elders later gathered at the family house to receive donations from sympathizers. They were made to spend less than 5 minutes after going through strict hand washing and other anti-coronavirus protocols. Openi Echampong later spoke to Joy News.
Our relative died days before the presidential directive, so we decided to send the corpse to the cemetery without bringing it home. We also designated some family members for the funeral rite at home. Since we were observing the directive, those of us here are even not up to 20. We also ensured all those returning from cemetery and other well-wishers washed their hands with soap. All of them were supplied with pocket tissues to clean their hands.
The family head tells Joy News it is easy to organize a funeral the way his family did. He wants others to devise alternative but innovative ways to mourn their departed relatives.
It is not too difficult to observe the presidential directive on social gathering. The president knows what's best for the country. Coronavirus disease is a global issue. We want to respect every arrangement that seeks to protect us. The directive is a good move.
From Kumasi for Joy News, Ohime Interior report.
President Akufo-Addo has underscored the need for prayers as the world continues to fight the coronavirus pandemic. At a breakfast prayer meeting with members of the clergy at Jubilee House, President Akufo-Addo expressed optimism Ghana will overcome the outbreak. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
Reverend Dr. Joyce Ayi leading the top members of the clergy to sing at the Jubilee House. Among those present at the breakfast prayer meeting are Eastwood Anaba, Dark Howard Mills, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, Chairman of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle Eric Kwabena Nyamiche. The men of God took turns to pray for Ghana. General Overseer of the Action Chapel International, Archbishop Duncan Williams, has been praying for protection for all government officials.
Divine immunity for our government. Praying, Father, for a stubborn determination, courage to withstand these difficult times, that they will have advanced knowledge and wisdom above their years to skillfully, wisely, and intelligently confront the challenges and the issues that confront this country.
Chairman of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle Eric Kwabena Nyamiche, prayed for healing for all coronavirus patients.
Now, dear Lord, we pray for the 9 people who have already been compromised. We ask in the name of Jesus that you heal them. That you will heal them, O Lord, in the name of Jesus.
Founder of the Eastwood Anaba Ministries, Reverend Eastwood Anaba, has been praying for the world.
It is your word that said in the book of Revelation 11, the verse number 6, that unto the 2 witnesses you gave power to shut the heavens that it will not rain. And you granted unto them also the power to turn waters into blood. You also gave them the power to bring upon the earth plagues as often as they would. And if they could bring down plagues, and if they can bring down plagues, we ask in the name of Jesus that you will anoint the ecclesiastical powers and unctions around the world, those that are called men of God, those that are called women of God, those that are called children of God.
Hallelujah.
President Akufo-Addo is optimistic Ghana will overcome the pandemic, which is wreaking havoc in many other countries.
These are not ordinary times, and eminent clergy. And in such times, a country whose population is predominantly Christian must seek the face of the one true God for healing and restoration. I'm confident that this morning's prayer, which will be offered in faith, will help heal our nation and will help raise Ghana up.
All right, and health facilities engaging coronavirus preventive work in activities in Kumasi are calling for personal protective equipment for their frontline staff. Authorities say nose masks, clothing and sanitizers are in short supply amid pressure on internally generated funds due to unpaid national health insurance arrears. Now, we will be bringing you that story later, but right now I want to bring you the global picture of the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus pandemic, which is plaguing, it's causing havoc wreaking havoc across the world. Now, we're going to speak with a virologist, Dr. Michael Owusu. He's a virologist at the KNUST, and we're going to get to understand how the virus is actually impacting Africa, if indeed there are any studies to indicate that. But first of all, let's look at what the global picture is right now as we speak. And we're going to Worldometer, and Worldometer is providing up-to-date figures or live figures as to the number of cases and the number of new deaths. So as you can see on your screen right now, China has a total, where the coronavirus pandemic started, has a total of 80,928 cases. They have 34 new cases, which is usually in the last 24 hours, and they have a total of 3,245 deaths. And then new deaths are just 8. Now, you come down to Italy, and Italy has 41,035 cases. They have 5,322 new cases. Now, here is the alarming statistic. Italy has 3,405 deaths. Now, that surpasses the number of deaths in China, which is at 3,245. And in Italy, there have been 427 new deaths in just a day. Now, if you look at Iran, Iran has 149 new deaths. Spain has 165 when it comes to Germany, which has 16 deaths, and the USA, which is 21 new deaths. So let's get to speak with Dr. Michael Owusu now. All right, so Dr. Michael Owusu, you have seen the statistics that we have just shared, and you've been following this. Apparently, you did some work on this novel or coronaviruses. What can you tell us about the way this virus is impacting Africa?
Yeah, good evening to all your listeners and for those who are viewing the television screen as I speak now. So, for Africa, strangely, we still don't have enough data on the exact impact of the disease in terms of the economic impact and how well people are responding or perhaps are dying from this. Coronavirus, this has been with us for a very long time. And we have done a study here at KNUST somewhere in 2014 where we found out that the mild strains, which we call the human coronaviruses, cause close to 9 to 10% of respiratory disease in all people, both adults and children. But these are things that are quite mild, for which people recover. So even before the outbreak of these novel viruses, we knew that people could get this and recover. So it's not something that is quite usual to cause severe disease. But this particular strain, which we call novel, seem to have extra capabilities. And this is why it's causing quite a number of deaths across the globe. the reason why perhaps we are not recording many of these cases in Africa, maybe it's too early for now, because it started from China and gradually traveling through the borders through Europe, and we are having peaks gradually in places like Egypt, followed by South Africa and Algeria. And for your information, quite a number of the African countries like Burkina Faso and like Algeria and Cameroon, these countries have reported local transmission, which will tell you that they have moved beyond the level of imported to local transmission, which is why their cases are gradually increasing. Egypt has 7 deaths because there is an active local transmission ongoing. And when there's local transmission and the peaks begin to rise, this is where you begin to see the impact on the country and on the nation. So it's too early to begin to tell why Africa is not perhaps experiencing this. But we can tell the clear picture, and depending on how we manage the local transmission cases that come to us. We're hoping that a number of Africans will be able to deal with it. But as the local transmission increase, and as the capacity to manage this local transmission also begins to weigh down, that is when we will see the actual economic impact of this in us. But already, we heavily rely on a lot of the developed world, from China, from Italy, from the U.S. So once these countries have shut down their borders, many of them, a movement of goods also seem to be going down. Buying and selling and business-wise, things are already down. You will expect indirectly we are being affected, but being affected directly from the impact of the virus, I think it's too early for us to tell now. We can see the picture as things go by, and we're hoping that we'll be able to deal with it. Else, in a couple of weeks or months to come, it begins to peak. Then we will begin to see what perhaps other countries are experiencing in the world.
All right, now, Dr. Owusu, I'd want you to hold on for us. We'll be coming to you again, but I'd want us to look at how this is happening elsewhere where there are lockdowns and partial lockdowns, and then we'll get to appreciate the cost involved of we deciding that we're shutting down. And you indicated that there hasn't been any study yet, even though I'm hoping that some Africans will come together and put together or come up with some study as to how this is impacting Africa. But let's go over to Kentucky, Prospect, Kentucky right now. I get to speak with Ghanaian-born Sylvia Quay. She's a legal practitioner, US-based legal practitioner. We also have Louisa Osborne, who is in London. So I want to start with you, Sylvia. What is the situation in the U.S. right now, in Prospect where you are?
Well, the situation is very dire. Can you hear me?
I can hear you good.
Okay, it's very dire. The schools have all closed. The kids are in the house getting homeschooled. They are doing online classes. Store shelves are empty of essentials. There's no toilet paper. There isn't sanitizer on the shelves. There isn't soap. All these things that are supposed to help us address the coronavirus pandemic are in heavy shortage here. Of course, there's no social activity. Nobody's visiting anybody. We're all holding in our homes. So for those of us who are extroverts, this is very hard because you don't see anybody outside of your own family and you don't get to be in a community with other people. It is it's a tough time we're all living.
I know you have your own practice. How are you coping? Are you able to consult? Are you able to see your clients?
Well, one of the joys of having my own practice is I get to determine how I do my work. Fortunately or unfortunately, all the courts are closed. So there's no litigation going on right now. As far as seeing my clients, I'm able to either FaceTime or do a telephonic consultation with them. I'm in the office by myself, so I'm not exposed to any risk per se. If a client has to come in and sign something, it would just be them. They don't come with an entourage or family members to expose us to, any more threats. So that individual will come in, sign the paper, sanitize his hands, and I sanitize mine, and then they go back. So yeah, we're all on partial lockdown. But as far as productivity, as far as my profession, it is not heavily affected, except that cases that are pending in court have all been either postponed, to a date certain, or postponed indefinitely.
All right. So I understand that in the U.S., the government is making some interventions for you, so you get to get some handouts in the rest. I'll come to you for you to explain how you're benefiting from that. But let's go over to London and speak to Louisa Osborne. Now, Louisa, what is the situation like in London for you?
Well, hi, good evening, Israel. There's a lot of uncertainty in London at the moment. Our Prime Minister Boris Johnson today announced that all the schools are going to be shut, from tomorrow. And with the GCSE and A-levels exams pending, we're really not sure what's going to be happening. And also, I've been today sent home, to start working from home. And we're not sure when we're returning. And there's also a partial shutdown on the underground system, the tube network. 40 stations have been closed. And there's, minimal movement around, I particularly went to the supermarket this morning, and I was told that I was entitled to 2 items each, per packaging. And for me, that was, a real awakening. And also, we've been told that 20,000 soldiers have been put on standby to help, with the situation. And so, I mean, these are really trying times. What I can also add is that people are trying, social distancing. The pubs and the restaurants are all empty, and that's what is happening here. Really, it's really trying times for us, but we're trying to contain the situation. And for people of us of faith, we're really clenching on at the moment. For church services are going to be online. And that's the situation at hand at the moment. So,
all right. Now, Louisa, I'll be coming to you in a bit, and I want to find out from you what you make of the stories you hear in Ghana. You have relatives in Ghana, and so clearly when you hear stories about what's happening in Ghana, how you feel about it and how we're handling it. But I'm coming to you, Sylvia, now. So I was asking earlier, we're learning that in the U.S., the government is making available loads of money to take care of people who are likely to lose their jobs and the rest. Do people like you who have your own practice stand to benefit at all?
Well, you know what? I can't really speak to that because I have heard different versions of that information myself. I've heard $1,000 thrown out. I've also heard $2,000 thrown out. I don't know what is real, what is true. This is uncharted waters for all of us. So I'm not sure exactly how much money the government is going to be giving out and how often they're going to be doling out that amount of money. We don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. And I don't know concretely what the government is going to do as far as financially rewarding or paying people during this crisis. I know that foreclosures, like home foreclosures, have been suspended by a president at least till the end of April, so that people cannot be kicked out of their homes. But otherwise, I don't know firsthand anybody who's received anything. It makes sense to do that, but I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. And as far as those of us who work for ourselves, I don't know. It would be nice if we're going to get some money somewhere, because this affects everybody. But we don't have employers. The employers is us. So it would be nice if we got some handout also. But I've even heard that even if there was going to be a financial handout, that self-employed people are going to be beneficiaries of that.
Are you particularly concerned about how the virus is impacting Africa, and especially Ghana, where you have relatives?
Absolutely. I check on my family every day. I have family all over the world, and so I make sure I touch base with everybody to make sure that everyone is safe. And secondly, to go through the regimen with everybody. Wash your hands, stay away from large crowds of people, sanitize, repeat. Frankly, this is how we're going at it, because it's a scary time we're living in right now, and we can't but watch and pray, do what we can, follow the protocol, clean our hands, surfaces, sanitize, and then self-quarantine or stay at home and not be near people. I particularly have an aging mother who is in the vulnerable group. So I text her every day, call her, and I tell her, stay away from funerals and engagements or weddings. These are the things that our elderly family members do to keep them interested and to keep them, going, to entertain themselves. But I've told her to stay away from all and just stay home. She doesn't even need to go to the market to buy anything. If she needs to walk, she can walk around the house and go back in. So in my own small way, this is all I'm doing to make sure that my family is protected. But it's frightening.
Now, Louisa, are you also worried about your folks back home?
Well, on Sunday evening, I think I heard the president's remarks and views on what was going to be happening, and I was particularly encouraged because he had, put a ban on, large gatherings, funerals, churches, and all these places that we seem to, socialize. And he'd also, sent the schools home and so forth and so on. And so for me, in hearing that, it was really encouraging. It made me feel that, that we're taking steps to, curb the situation. And also with the airport situation. At the moment, this is what we're hearing. We're not sure that if you're not a Ghanaian citizen and you make attempts to come to Ghana, they will not allow you to come in. That's what we're hearing, but we're not sure if that's the accurate information. And so yes, and then this morning I also saw on Facebook that they were praying, about the situation, in Jubilee House. That was also very encouraging. So yes, I feel a sense of encouragement with what is happening. They've taken initiative, they've made steps, to try and curb the situation the best way they can. So for me, it's quite encouraging. Yeah.
All right. So I'd like to thank you both, Louisa Osborne from the UK and Sylvia Quay from Prospect, Kentucky, for joining us for this conversation. And you keep safe.
Thank you, Israel.
Yes, you do the same.
All right.
Take care.
Bye. All right. So we're coming back to the phone line now to speak with Dr. Michael Owusu, a virologist at KNUST. So you have heard what the situation is like out there, and we know that it is costing countries out there quite a bit to get to contain or manage the situation. Now, it is also costing us quite a bit here in Ghana, and which is why I was asking the question, are virologists like you and scientists, or your colleague scientists, considering having a study or some research as to how the virus is impacting Africa?
Yes, of course, Israel. So we have been collaborating with our colleagues at various institutions, even for those who are in other parts of West Africa, like Burkina Faso, in Benin, and groups which are in Kenya, in Tanzania, and others in South Africa, trying to put together a manuscript to begin to assess the impact of this virus on the economy. Most part of Africa heavily relies on imports. Now, our import partners in China, in the United States, in Belgium, in the United Kingdom, then in France. So these are most of the manufacturing companies are in these places, and we heavily rely on them. So even before we begin to experience the outbreak already, imports of goods is a problem and is impacting on that. For us in Africa, a lot of people are falling on the materials already stored. These are things which we were imported already before the spark of the outbreak. But now that many of these countries have shut down their borders and manufacturing has gone down, once we begin to exhaust these stores and these reservoirs that we have in our shops, we will get to a time where it will become difficult to get things on the market to buy. And this is when the woman mentioned that she is restricted to buy 2 items in a shop. It tells you the gravity of the situation.
All right.
So we're beginning to put some thoughts together to write a paper on this, to describe the impact of these on the African continent.
Okay, Dr. Owusu, the question I'm actually asking is not so much about the economic impact, but about how the virus is actually, or maybe transmitting in Africa, so that if we know that maybe local transmission is not as serious as has happened elsewhere, we probably may be looking at other ways of containing it or controlling it rather than shutting down everything.
Yes, so Israel, we need some more data in terms of the cases happening for us to understand. The virus cells, the receptors for the virus are in the lung. And everyone who is exposed, difficulty in breathing becomes one of the common signs or symptoms you will find. And in 5 to 10% of people, you will expect them to have ICU admission, where they will require some support, ventilation support. The numbers we are having on the continent still are on the low side, and the number of people who require ICU admission still on the low side. So as the situation is unfolding, and we can better know as the cases increase, where we can describe the people who are admitted, those who require ICU ventilation, those who die out of this, like we are seeing in Egypt. Until we get these huge cases, it will be difficult to describe the exact impact of these on the continent. Africa is blessed with a number of things. The fact that we have a young population in Africa compared to a lot of the European countries, which is an advantage to us. The fact that we have possibilities of some more of the weather on our side, although it's not so much of a factor, but it's possible that suspension of the organism in the aerosols could be much reduced compared to the European countries. So we assume that perhaps the rate of fast movement of the organisms on the continent may be lower than what is happening in Europe. But because of the limited data on the continent, it's difficult to make a prediction. And because it's a novel virus, the viruses keep changing and mutating depending on where they find themselves. How it will play out within the African host, within the black population, may be different from how it will play out within the Western host or the white population. So if you don't have much data, it is difficult at this early moment to begin to predict how this will happen within our setting. Certainly, as the cases increase, I'm sure that we'll be able to come with a good picture to understand the dynamism of the virus on the continent.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Owusu. He's a virologist at the KNUST. You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break at this point to bring you more business news with Sandra Afenu. Stay tuned.
And again, in time now to do more business news. The Ministry of Finance has waived the value-added tax on alcohol and 2 other ingredients for the production of hand sanitizers. The Food and Drugs Authority is also giving a 24-hour service to all pharmaceutical companies. In the following report, Odilia Ntiamwa reports that the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association may produce so many sanitizers by Monday that there could be a glut. However, they may also not have the capacity to produce if the disease goes beyond the prevention stage.
I've been sitting with various pharmaceutical associations after the president made the appeal for local production of essential personal protection equipment.
Were there to be a surge, we have not got there yet, but were there to be a surge in the incidence of this pandemic in Ghana, we would all unfortunately discover that we are very naked to deal with it. And I felt that you, the leaders of the pharmaceutical industry in our country, together with some of the leading bankers here, the regulators of the industry, officials of government, and we can come together in this coalition, we can then begin to address these deficiencies in a really systematic and programmatic manner.
An earlier announcement of $100 million for the prevention and containment of COVID-19 from the president shows from these interviews that I have conducted that government does not have the money.
At my prompting, the Minister for Finance has made available the CD equivalent of $100 million United States dollars to enhance our coronavirus preparedness and response plan. That is to fund the expansion of infrastructure, purchase of materials and equipment, and public education.
We've all heard that government has given $100 million, but yesterday we met the finance minister. Well, they have a commitment to get 100 million. There's a difference between we have 100 million and we are sitting down. I don't think the 100 million is sitting down, but they are working very hard to make it available. Some available. He mentioned about $35 million to be easily available. But we are not waiting for those things. It's a call. We have to really see what we can do. Once it comes and it helps, that is okay.
The current situation from the 30 manufacturing companies under the Association of Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Companies currently have the capacity to produce prevention personal protection equipment and sanitizer.
We've agreed that the material that we have, which we are going to use for producing medicine, we are going to allocate them to produce hand sanitizers.
Ghana will not move past this stage successfully, and that is why the $100 million would have been needed.
Unfortunately, once it becomes serious and you move into the pneumonia level, then you need a real treatment. Those products, some have been banned from UK, and India is restricting some materials.
Government owes service providers who use pharmaceutical companies. The pharmaceutical companies indicate if government pays this money, it will change a lot.
Currently, I must say that we have contract with the service providers. And the service providers also have contract with NHI. What we want is for the service providers to pay for the supplies. So Ministry of Finance is going to raise bond that is going to pay for the outstanding NHI claims. Then they will also make sure that they pay on monthly basis to the tune of almost 70 million Ghana cedi to the service providers every month.
This may be Ghana's chance to look at being a pharmaceutical hub for at least West Africa.
Most of the French-speaking countries do not have manufacturing facilities, and we can be providing the services to them. As at now, if you look at infusions, mostly the Ghanaian companies export to most of the French-speaking countries, and that is why we expect government to increase his interest in local manufacturing so that we can make Ghana the hub for West Africa.
Government has, however, shown some level of commitment to the sector in the past. 9 companies are expected to benefit from some 300 million cedis by close of the year from the Exim Bank.
When I met the president, he said 302 million cedis is what he has allocated so far, and he said he has paid 192 or 196 million. But we are all at various stages, so we need them to, at least before the end of the year, if these facilities can be given the funds to complete so that Ghana can boast of new facilities that meet international standards to be able to supply Ghana and also start exporting. That would be very good for the country.
The Ministry of Finance has promised to also take taxes off the 3 main ingredients for producing hand sanitizers. Food and Drugs Authority is also contributing its quota.
We've agreed with FDA, the Chief Executive of FDA, that when we submit samples for registration, it will be done in 24 hours. Kina Pharma was submit a sample of a hand sanitizer to FDA, and we expect to have the approval by Friday. On Monday, we are going to give out more than 1,000 liters of hand sanitizers to be donated and given out to hospitals, clinics, and even to the presidency.
By Monday, there will be a glut for sanitizers, but will this support for local manufacturing just end at the corona vanishing into thin air as many wish it will? Currently, Ghana produces only 33% of its drug consumption needs.
Now, the local currency cedi loses marginal ground to the dollar but appreciates by 3.47%. The Business News summaries is next.
Despite the rising number of COVID-19 cases across the globe, daily forex transactions indicate that Ghana cedi appears to be still doing better against the major foreign currencies. Class FM Online reports the cedi is, however, losing ground, albeit slowly, to the US dollar, particularly in the last couple of days, but may end the first quarter of this month with an appreciation of about 3%. The Bank of Ghana has announced that there will be no charges on all mobile money transfers of 100 Ghana cedis and below from both banks and mobile network operators for the next 3 months. This new policy, which is subjected to review, will commence on Friday, March 20.
We have the commodity news update up next. That's all for business tonight. My name is Sandra Isenamap, and I'm back tomorrow same time, but do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. I'm Gary L. Smith with the sport. Now, the coronavirus is making all of us speak about its effects and how far-reaching it is on a global level. But what about on the local level, precisely in our football? In the Ghana Premier League, we've seen a resurgence in attendance in the past 4 months, meaning that vendors were having a lot of patronage. One popular vendor at the Accra Sports Stadium is Ni Akrama Tego, and he's been in the business for about 30 years. How has this coronavirus and the subsequent shutdown by the Ghana Football Association and the government affected him? George Ado Jr. went to the stadium to find out.
People who play handball, the patronagers, they buy our water, they buy our food, they buy our drinks. None. There's a suggestion on them not to come again because of coronavirus. People who train in the sports who don't come at the same time, but they come in few numbers from time to time. Those who can come in the morning come. Those who can also train in the afternoon also come. And those who train in the evening. Now there's a suggestion that all of them should stop as a result of coronavirus. It will make a situation very difficult for us.
On a regular Ghana Premier League day, Tego Kitchen Services simply is very, very busy. We've got fans coming in trying to get something to eat before the game, during the game, and sometimes after the game. I have to say business was at its peak in the season because up to 5 teams play their home games here. The likes of Inter Allies, Accra Hearts, of course, Great Olympics, Legon Cities and Kumasi Asante Kotoko. That means a lot of revenue was coming in. There was bad news for Tego Kitchen Services on Sunday.
I've come into your homes again this evening to provide an update, as I promised, on the measures taken by government to combat the coronavirus pandemic.
When the president announced that, look, all public gatherings must cease because we're trying to curb the spread of coronavirus.
Stadium business succeeds on the number of people who patronage events.
We're here to just find out how that suspension has affected business down here.
No football. Passion of the nation almost struck out by the deadly coronavirus, and the football fraternity remains shuttered. With many uncertainties, unsure about when football resumes, and even more worrying, the uncertain economic climate for businesses connected to football.
Torosios Nyama Koblan Tego, Barry Benedictus, Nia Tego.
How long have you been working here? How long have you been in the stadium?
I grew up here. I've been in the stadium more than 3 decades. I started as toffee seller and then toffee and biscuit seller. I come through the stadium, through the gutter from the then race course side. And by dint of hard work and God blesses, this is how far God has brought me. And when the stadium was closed for renovation for Camp 2008, I had the opportunity to follow Accra as a folk to engage in a number of friendlies with the Liberty for Professionals. And one of the encounter, I realized that there's a business opportunity because there was no water, there was no drink, and the people have to walk from the stadium outside. And at a point, I have to be saying, whilst I was selling my toffees and biscuits, I have to be saying, go and buy water for the people. So I realized that, no, next time when they're saying game day, I'll go and sell drinks and water. And I started it and realized that all that I took there, all got finished. On more than, same thing on more than several occasions. All this while, if I bought materials 5, I increase it and continue. So after the renovation here, I cried to the authorities that I would like to occupy this shop. In fact, they advertise for people to apply to occupy the place. So I did according to the request. I went through very ethic interview. And after the interview, the panel members who know me, how I started it, some of them knew me how I started here. This one I will not say because they are favoring me, but they realize that I endear myself to all the questions that they pose to me. And among the people who want to occupy the place, I deserve to be there, so they give it to me.
Tego Kitchen Services is a one-stop for refreshment during games of any nature at the Accra Sports Stadium. And this season has been very special, with 5 Premier League clubs and a Division 1 club playing home games at the Accra Sports Stadium. Practically 5 days of the week this season had fans troop in because of the novelty Monday, Thursday and Friday match days introduced by the FA for the Ghana Premier League. The sweet story, though, was abruptly interrupted when coronavirus surfaced, and life has not been the same after government's decision to ban all public gatherings for at least 4 weeks.
All public gatherings, including conferences, workshops, funerals, festivals, political rallies, sporting events, have been suspended for the next 4 weeks.
It's very shocking when we hear that kind of news, because to us, at least this match has been programmed already. It should be allowed to go home. And even to the last first leg, so that we'll break from there. But a situation where we're going to market, every money that we have is going to buy materials for the purpose of the match. For us to hear very short and very terrible, that was very terrible on our business. Now our payment to our suppliers have become zero. And it will be a problem. When they start coming here, there wouldn't be money to pay them.
Tego Kitchen Services is just one of many businesses around the country connected to football and suffering. Tego is praying for a quick turnaround as COVID-19 threatens to peak in late April.
So Tego, how are you planning to manage now that we don't know when the league is coming back?
Yeah. For now, we are going to appeal to the experts who advise the president to take a critical look if there's any way out so that football should not suffer again. And now people are trooping into the stadium because of aggressive launch of Bring the Love Back.
Yes.
Initiated by current football administration.
Yeah.
And such a thing for 1 month, and we're still counting, will be very terrible on football. So we are appealing to, I would like to appeal to His Excellency the President, if it is possible, what they did at the first half for his meeting with other Ghanaians to happen, if it can be it can be brought here, it will be a help to football business.
So until football returns, businesses connected to it, they keep on suffering.
In literature class in the Julius Caesar, there was a line that said, "Thou Brutish beast." So COVID, thou Brutish beast. How much are people losing?
A lot.
Yeah. But by the time the thing is done, we might be able to transfer. It's going to be in trillions of Ghana cedis and stuff like that. So. But yeah, but that's the Sport George Addo Junior's report there.
All right. Thank you very much, Gary. And that'll be it for the bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.